Today's podcast is supported by David Smith of Edward Jones. Are you happy with your financial strategy? Or maybe like to see what other opportunities are out there? Well, give David a call at 469-372-1587. That's 469-372-1587. David is only concerned about one person, that's you and your financial health. So check him out, David Smith, Edward Jones, 469-372-1587. Everybody, it's a Trout. Hope you're having a great day. What would you think about if you were working in a shoe store, an athletic shoe store, and you've always wanted to be a musician and tried out in different places and threw some music out to people, and then one day you get a phone call from a record label, and the person on the other end says, "We want you to record for our record label." And you're like, "What?" That's the story of my guest today. Well, part of the story, and that is with Cowboy Troy. This is a guy that took an idea, taking rap music and putting it with country music that nobody ever thought of before. And that's exactly what he did, and he made his hit happen with that and the help of some great friends. And he's going to talk about his friends that helped him get where he is now. A guy that people know is Cowboy Troy that still makes great music. And yes, is he still playing Chicken with Trains? Absolutely. So up next, the guy that, he still plays Chicken with Trains, Cowboy Troy, and his story. That's next on The Trout Show.
Train coming round the bend. Go on, kid, folks, tell your mom and them. Chugga-lugga, ooh, the big black neck coming through to you. Boy, you done fell and bumped your head. That's what they said. People say it's impossible, not probable, too radical. But I already been on the CMAs. Held Tim McGraw, said he liked the change, said he likes the way my hiccup sounds and the way the crowd screams when I stomp the ground. I'm big and black, clickety-clack, and I make the train jump.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like, though, at that time, and how you got started, with your basic, you obviously grew up in Victoria.
Well,
and then you were born in there. Okay. So where did you go from there?
So I was born there. And then 6 months after I was born, my folks moved back north, and they had gone to college at East Texas State University.
Which is where? Where's that?
It's in Commerce, Texas.
Oh, in Commerce, I know where that. Okay, yeah.
It's now known as Texas A&M Commerce, and it was still East Texas State University.
Right.
My parents met in college. They dated for about a year, and then after that, they got married, and then after that, I was born, and then after 6 months after I was born, they moved back up to that area, up to North Texas and East Texas State, which is about 60 miles to the east of Dallas.
Right.
And, then they finished, my dad finished grad school, my mom finished her undergrad, and from there, we wound up over in Fort Worth. And so we wound up in Fort Worth probably, I guess I was told, in 1972, and lived there for a while, and lived there before we moved to Dallas in 84. So
you both... I was just going to say, excuse me. So both your parents were professionals. They both went to school. And what did they go on to get professional jobs? Did they use their degrees?
So my dad got his undergrad in music, and he taught music for a short period of time, and then he went back and got his master's in counseling psychology. So he kind of moved from music into a professional degree area. And mom, back in those days, she got her degree in home economics. And then from there, she eventually in the 80s wound up getting a master's in HR or something like that, if I recall. So yeah, eventually they wound up with professional degrees outside of what they would have normally preferred.
So was that, so when you were growing up, so where did you spend most of your time, at Fort Worth then?
Yeah, so 11 years in Fort Worth
Okay.
until 1984, and then we moved, or 83, 84, moved to Dallas, and then from there, I went to school in Austin after I graduated high school, and then after I graduated from University of Texas, I moved back to Dallas. So the majority of my time, all told, I spent 15 years in Dallas, uh, 11 in Fort Worth, 4 in Austin, and then the 13 years in Nashville, and then now I'm back in East Texas and been back here, I guess, 6 years now.
Here's a guy that you get your degree, and then what's your degree in? That was it. What is your degree in?
Uh, Psychology, and then I got a master's in uh, business administration. I got an MBA in marketing, so I got
What?
that in 2017.
Okay, so when you started and you wanted to
Mhm.
get and you get your degree, what did you want to do? What did you think you wanted to do when you were growing up?
Um, uh, as a kid, I thought about being an engineer, and then I realized that even though I liked math, there was more math involved in engineering that I probably was skilled for. So I kind
Mm,
of changed my mind on that. And, eventually I got to the point where I thought, it'd be kind of cool to be an economist because I like economics and things like
hmm
that. That
hmm
would be a cool deal. And, then after I changed my mind on all that, I found myself in the music business. And, all these years later, I thought, it'd be kind of good because at one period, the music business is a cyclical kind of a thing,
Yep.
and you have ups and your downs. And then during, I guess, one of the down periods, I was thinking, man, well, it's kind of slow. Maybe I might want to look into, finding, a corporate job or a professional job. And
Sure.
this was probably maybe 10 years ago. And I was like,
hmm
man, it's rough. I better start doing stuff. And so as I'm looking around, they're like, well, you've got experience, but you have to have a minimum of a master's degree to be considered eligible to apply for the, you start looking around. I'm like, well, so I went back and got an MBA.
Yeah.
And as I got my MBA, I graduated with that. And the next thing you know, the music business picks up again for me. And so we're back on an incline and using the marketing, it helped me to understand how to better market not only my music,
hmm
merchandising, because as a music, as an artist, the majority of what you're going to earn is through merchandising
Yep.
because
Merch.
music is your calling card.
Yep.
Music tells people you have something fresh, something new, or it reminds them of something that they had a great time with. And it allows the booking agent to use your music as a marketing tool. Because usually when you go and your booking agent is trying to get you some shows, they're like, well, does he have anything current? Well, sure, he just released, you know, XYZ or whatever the songs are, whatever the album is. And that comes out, oh, okay, cool. It's good to know that he's still doing music or something, got something fresh.
Right.
And from there, you get people in the door. And once you get people in the door, then you have to have merch that is going to get them excited about walking around. Well, I had a great time at the show. I'm going to get a t-shirt or a cap, or at the very least a beer koozie or something,
Yep.
to remind me of the night. And also kind of, your merch is your secondary marketing tool,
Sure.
because not everybody's going to listen to your songs, but they may understand the fact that, hey, I really enjoy hanging out, at the show, and after the show, he came out, shook hands, took pictures, signed autographs, whatever it is,
Yeah.
serves as, a marketing tool. Your name is your brand, and your persona, your attitude, and the way people interact with you becomes a way for them to understand, what, he's an okay dude. I may not know all of his songs, but he hung out with us. And I tell younger artists sometimes, it's like, man, people may not remember the songs you sang or even the songs you help other people write, but they will remember whether or not you hung out after the show and, had a beer with them and shook hands and took pictures and all that kind of stuff. So, well, there's a, you do have to do multiple things when you're out on the road. And I've told people before, it ain't called show friends. It's called show business. And you have to make sure that you understand the different things that are involved, because at the end of the day, the record labels, the management companies, the booking agents, they like what you do, but they also want to make sure that you are generating revenue. Mm-hmm. And record label is funding your efforts musically. They would like to see a return on their investment.
Yep.
So you figure out ways of understanding what they're expecting and how to help them achieve those goals, because they're helping you achieve your goals by getting out in front of, hundreds of thousands of people. And in order to do that, you have to do more than just say, hey man, just point me to the stage. Where do I hook my microphone up? Where do I plug in my guitar? Yeah. Where are the drums? All that stuff. It's more than just point me to the stage. Yes, it's about art. And that is the root of all of it, because without the art, there is no product for people to generate revenue from.
Correct.
But as a musician, as an artist, you have to understand that and also know how to make sure that you are trying to make sure that you are helping to market yourself in such a way that people can find your art, can consume your art in the way that they choose to. I mean, people talk about, and you mentioned earlier, used to be CDs. Now it's all digital. And it's really interesting how people consume their music. My final project for marketing research was, helping to understand how country music fans consume their music. And I, ran surveys and all that stuff that I put together, trying to figure out. And a lot of people consume their music digitally. And I think the numbers were only 37% or something like that at that time, really only preferred physical copies. Everybody else consumed their music through digital means, streaming, television, or radio, or something like that did not require a physical copy of the music. And, I don't know how much you know about pop music, but I got a buddy.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Okay, so I got a buddy named Charlie Panaccio. His stage name is Charlie Steele, and he was the lead singer for the pop band Lanier back in the 90s. And they sold a few records worldwide. And I remember talking to Charlie because Charlie had at one point come on and helped work on managing my career and the career of other folks that I know. And so Charlie was telling me one afternoon, and we were out on the road. I forget where we were, but Charlie says, dude, one of these days, you're going to be able to go out there and say, hey, here's my brand new song, go out and download it right now. And people can download it right to the phone. I'm like, and this is like 15 years ago. I'm like,
sure. Yeah.
And he goes, trust me, they're doing it now. They're working on it now. And sure enough, people are downloading songs right to their phone. You can go out and say, hey, this is my brand new song, brand new album. And people from that point, you can just take a little minute, let the band vamp a little bit, and then the people are downloading the song
their phone.
While you're about to play it. And, it's one of those things. And he was telling me about that a long time ago. And then sure enough, there it was. And so I'm like, you know what? I think it's a good idea to be on the front end of this instead of being on the back end. I think with the whole Napster thing and how that started out early on in the early 2000s, and everybody was like freaking out. Well, man, it's tearing up everything. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what's happening. And if you still want to have a career in music, you got to figure out how to get in front of it.
I remember when U2 was one of the first bands that talked about, and I can't remember what it was called, but if you went to their concert, only you in the concert could download the song. It was something to do with some, area in that concert. And I remember them getting up. I wasn't there. I just remember reading about it. Okay, here's one of our new songs off our new album. You can download it right now. And that's been a few years ago. And I thought, well, that's just such a cool thing to do. Because then they leave, they have a copy of it. Now, and I'm sure that people in the business go, well, you're losing that revenue. You're gaining. I mean, yeah, you might be losing those, but at the end of the day, you're actually gaining because you give them something personal right then. Where were you working or what were you doing when you said, I want to get into doing Cowboy Troy?
Well, I got the nickname Cowboy Troy in college, and we're just stuck. And, I was, DJing frat parties, or going out to clubs, and I'd jump up and perform with whoever was DJing at the time, stuff like that. And so I was just kind of cutting my teeth in those days. And then eventually it got to the point where, I'd sit down with buddies and I'd be like, man, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we did a rap record or a couple rap songs, but used country instruments? And they're like, what? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah, no, it makes sense. Trust me. And they're like, all right, cool. So then it got to the point where in 2001, I put out a 3-song EP called Hick Hop Hysteria. And Hick Hop Hysteria, I printed up a bunch of copies of it. I mean, I'm like, man, it's going to be great and blah, 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 blah. It's going to be the thing. And, now people are using those CDs as beer coasters or something.
If they still have them.
Yeah, using them as medallions for your gold chain or whatever. I only have a few copies left, but, it's crazy how it worked. And then eventually, people started understanding, like, okay, that's kind of an interesting thing, but is it really something that's going to, move the needle? I was like, man, I've been spending, plenty of time in country bars and since the early 90s. And one thing I remember is that during the first 45 minutes of the hour, the DJ or the band that's playing plays your traditional top 40 country songs. Mm-hmm. And then after that last 15 minutes of the hour, they're mixing it up with rock, rap, or dance music.
Okay.
And I said, every time the rap songs come on, the dance floor was completely crowded, packed. All the cowboy hats, running around. The cowgirls are out there, doing their dance. And I was like, it's going to work.
No two-step in there. No.
And I was like, okay, we'll see. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then all these years later, like, you were right. And I'm like, yeah, well, I try to, I try to see the trend before it becomes something, and I was like, well, how can we figure that and move that into an area that it's going to be fun and a way to do something? It's original and also have the opportunity to, get a group of listeners into something that they had not had an opportunity to really get into before. So that's how it worked out.
When you recorded the first stuff, did you have people that played on it, or did you call friends in to perform, or what did you do? How'd you do it?
I had friends that played instruments for it, and I didn't have any kind of phone list of people to call.
No, but we all have acquaintances that we can call, and say, hey, do you want to do this and do that? Yeah.
I had buddies that played on it back then.
When did the big break happen? And I always want to ask these questions because you had the big song. Mm-hmm. And when did you know? When was that moment? First, tell me how that came about. But when was that moment you knew that, this is going to be big? How'd that all come about?
So I met John Rich in 93, summer of 93. And he was playing in a band. Back then they were called Texas C, because all the guys in the band were from Texas, but they met in Tennessee. And then
Clever.
This got a record deal that became known as Lone Star. And so I met John in 93, and he and I became friends. I was hanging out in the bar he was playing in.
Now, was that in Nashville or was that in Texas? It was in Nashville? I was in Dallas. Oh, okay.
I met him summer of 93 in Dallas at a place called Borrowed Money. And, John and I became friends because we had similar interests. And, he started asking me, well, what's going on? What are you up to? And I told him about the music I was doing. He's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm working on this thing. You got the country rap, the hip hop whole thing. And he put it together and like, what? I'm like, okay. And we stayed friends. And then in 99, in one of my first trips to Nashville, he introduced me to Big Kenny. And he had met Big Kenny there, at that time. And they were working on stuff, writing songs. And, I met Big Kenny, became friends with Big Kenny in 99. So all these years later, they started doing these things called Music Mafia, Musically Artistic Friends and Alliance.
Okay.
And everybody was just kind of there hanging out and serving as sounding boards for all the other artists that were involved. And they met for like 72 Tuesdays in a row.
Wow.
Every week, it started out at the Pub of Love. And, every week there was always, people were just getting up, jamming, serving as a sounding board. Yeah, that song is cool. Let's work on something here, change this, or, move it around. But it was kind of a fun thing. And
I think that'd be fun. Yeah.
Other people started showing up. Then eventually it started making enough noise that people from record labels started showing up. And then Gretchen Wilson got signed out of Music Mafia, and she got signed to Sony. Big and Rich got signed to Warner Brothers.
So the A&R people were coming to the place and listening
right.
to it. Okay.
They started hanging out, and then, you know, Big and Rich got signed out of Warner Brothers. I got signed because Big and Rich called me up after they got signed, and they were like, hey, man, we're going to do this song on our album. We want you to come and rap on it. So they brought me to Nashville. I recorded my verse on the song, and then I went back, and the song is called Rollin', the Ballad of Big and Rich.
You'd met Big and Rich, and they'd asked you to do this one song, the one song you were talking about, but we hadn't gotten to the train song yet.
Correct. So when Rollin' was recorded in 2003, and then eventually it made the album, their first album was called Horse of a Different Color. And it was, you know, it's one of the most ingenious collaborations and collective of songs that you could think of. There's such a wide variety and a wide range of songs on that album. It's really cool. Well, I was working at Foot Locker at the time, and, you know, I was on my lunch break, and I see that I had a missed call and a message from John. So, you know, I hit the recording. I'm sitting in my car on my lunch break because, you know, you're not allowed to have your phone on the sales floor.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sitting in my car on my lunch break, and, you know, I hear this voice. It's like, Troy, this is your future calling. Like, all right. So, you know, John proceeds to tell me that they're going out on tour with Tim McGraw. So I call him back immediately, and they're in the car. They're going somewhere. And I'm like, man, that's so cool. Congratulations. I'm happy for you guys. It's awesome. And, you know, I can't wait till y'all get to Dallas, man. That'd be cool. I hope to get a chance to come see the show. I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. We want you to go on the road with us.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm like looking at my phone, you know, and I'm looking around. I was like, is this serious?
Concerned about your financial health? And reach out to David Smith with Edward Jones. 469-372-1587. That's 469-372-1587. He can conduct business where you are. Get your financial health checkup with David Smith with Edward Jones. His number one concern is you. That's David Smith with Edward Jones. 469-372-1587.
You know, and at that moment, you don't know whether to start yelling or start crying because, you know, it's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
You know, excited about it. And because I was happy for my friends. They're like, no, we want you to go with us.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, and working as a shoe salesman, you're not making a lot of dough.
No.
And thinking, man, this is a whole different deal. I mean, I've been working my whole life to get to this point, and then I get the opportunity. So I'm like, you know, I was like, okay. So the next thing you know, I'm out on the road with Big and Rich, and it was going to be just a summer tour. I'm like, all right, this is cool, you know. And then I was going to go back to my job. The people at Foot Locker said, you can come back. We'll hold your spot. Mm-hmm. And, you know, because I'm far from getting my own store. I was an assistant store manager. I wasn't.
Oh, you were going to get your own store. That's what you're working toward. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I get my own store. And they're like, we'll hold your spot. And then, you know, when the summer's over, it's like, cool. I'm like, right, here we go. Well, summer turns into an invitation to the fall tour as well. So we go out on the fall tour with McGraw. We ended up doing like 80 shows with Tim McGraw that year in 2004. And, you know, one day I'm like, hey, you know, I called my store manager. He's like, yeah, hey, man, what's going on? He said, when are you coming back? You know, because this was like November or something like that. And I said, hey, man, I just wanted to, you know, call and let you know. That's what I was calling you for. I just got an offer for a record deal. I just got an offer to go and, you know, record with Warner Brothers. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. Well, congratulations, man. You're a great employee, blah, 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 you know, and the road since. And then in 2000, and so in November of 2004, we start recording the start of Locomotive, which was my first major label album. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I said it was 2 words, Locomotive. And I said, because I had crazy intentions with combining rap lyrics and country instrumentation and calling it hick hop, and went so far as to trademark the, you know, the name hick hop and all that stuff.
Why not?
They're like, what? This makes no sense. And before I got the deal, the folks in Warner Nashville we're talking to the folks at Warner LA. We got this guy. I think you should hear him. Blah 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 blah. It's going to be a big deal. And one day we were out on the road and we were in Arkansas at Arkansas State University in their basketball gym, their basketball arena. And we were opening for McGraw that night. And the head of Warner LA just happened to be there. just happened to be there just to see how crazy the crowd was going to respond.
For those people that don't know where Arkansas State is, you just have to look it up. Him to happen to be there is,
It was crazy. So, and I remember the tour manager said, "Hey, man, Tom's out in the audience." "Huh? From LA?" He goes, "Yeah, Nashville called him up and said, blah, 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 you ought to come check it out." So he's in the audience. Okay. So, and then, just as I'm getting ready to go out on stage, get this pat on the back. "Hey, don't mess it up." I'm like, thanks. So, and that's the tour manager patting you on the back. "Don't mess it up."
Yeah.
"Great. Thanks." So I go out there and they announce me, John, gets on the microphone as they're playing. It's like, "We brought her, a secret weapon. It's her own," it gives me the big buildup.
Yeah.
And, and I was a huge wrestling fan, all these years. And so he gives me the big buildup, like he's introducing me to go into the ring to compete for the world title. So I walk out there and it was so cool because as I'm walking out, you can hear this roar of people screaming and cheering from the back all the way up to the front. And as I'm walking out, I look down right in the front row and there's Tom, the head of Warner LA. And he's, looking at me, he's looking at me, he's looking at the crowd, he's looking at me, he's looking at the crowd, and the crowd is going bananas. And he goes, "This is, and then I go do the spiel. And then, after the show, it's like, "Okay, let's make a record." I'm like, "All right, yeah." High fives. We try to play it cool, and then after he left, and I was like,
yeah.
And it's pretty cool that it worked out that way. But it's an exciting thing.
Had the Train song come out yet, or is that after that?
No. Chicken with the Train hadn't come out yet, and it was cool that Tom saw that and he was impressed by it, and it was one of those things where, all right, we'll see how it works. But we were also in the midst of doing a reality show for CMT.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Yeah, you were doing with Jewel. Was it Jewel?
Well, no, that was a different TV show.
Oh, okay.
That was Nashville Star, and that was
okay. All right. Okay.
So season 5 of Nashville Star for that. But so this was in 2004, and we were still in the midst of filming Music Mafia TV for CMT. And when it became official that I was going to get a deal, we were in New Orleans. And, that's when I get the call, on camera. "Hey, man, Paul wants to talk to you, from Nashville." And Paul Worley, the head of, at that time, the head of creative for Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's me on the phone and these cameras are rolling and I'm sitting there and he's like, "Hey, just want to say congratulations. Want to offer you a record deal. Come record for Warner Brothers." And I'm like, "Man, this is cool." Again, with the phone, I'm looking at the phone. Now TV cameras are on you. It's like, now you can't start bawling.
No, you can't. No.
TV cameras on you and everybody. And you could tell they're trying to get you to do it. They're trying to get you to break.
Yeah.
And it's like, I start thinking about my mom. I think about my dad. And all things like, play cool. Don't start crying. Yeah. I'm like, and it worked out. Everything's like, "Oh, man, cool. Thank you so much." And blah, blah, blah. Camera's cut. Then you leave the room and you kind of compose yourself. "Dad, I got my deal." Blah, 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 blah. And then that worked out. But they got it on camera. So now I'm like, then I call, the store over at Foot Locker. Hey,
you got to watch the show.
Yeah, I'm not coming back,
ever.
And they were cool to me. They were really cool to me there, and they kind of gave me the leeway to go and do those things. But I'm always appreciative of that. But it's just kind of an interesting way and a long road. But it's you got to learn to make sure that you take in the sights as you as you're on that road, because you never know when you're going to get that, chance.
I think it's really cool that John Rich and the guy saw something in you, and I know you still do some stuff with them occasionally, and that friendship has never gone away.
That's
Let's
correct.
go back to the Chicken and the Train song. How
Okay.
did that come back? How did that come about? And then tell me when you knew that moment. Did you get a call or somebody said, "Hey, it's doing this"? Tell me how that worked.
When we were out with McGraw, Robert Tim McGraw, and we were playing the basketball arena for Louisiana State University down in Baton Rouge. And that afternoon, John was writing, and he's like, "Man, this is a cool guitar lick." And there was a set of train tracks that was right near where we were parked and right near the arena. And he's like, and he starts playing this guitar lick. He's like, "I play chicken with the train." He's like wandering around by the train tracks. He's, "I play chicken with a train, play chicken with a train. Uh-huh, uh-huh." And it's like, and then he came back and started telling me about it. I'm like, "Huh, that's interesting." And he's like, "You know how people talk about playing chicken with the train and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you could talk about your style of music is basically playing chicken with the music industry." And that
Great metaphor. Yeah.
was the frame of reference that I used when I was writing lyrics to the rap part. And it just made sense. It's like, you know what? Because, people said it's impossible, not probable, too radical. But at that point, I'd already been on the CMAs. And Tim McGraw said he liked the change because the night that we got to perform on the CMAs that year, we had been out on the road with McGraw all year, summer and fall.
Yeah.
And we were about to perform the Ballad of Big and Rich on the CMAs that night.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim walks into the dressing room and he's talking to us and shaking hands with us and high-fiving us. And, John said something like, "Yeah, man, country music's changing a bit. Troy's doing a lot of stuff." And Tim McGraw says, "I like it. And Tim McGraw said he liked the change and he likes the way my hiccup sounds and the way the crowd screams when I stomp the ground, and it just makes it into the song. So after we performed that at the CMAs in November, we're in the studio recording the song. He's like, "Yeah, now we need to go record the actual song, Chicken with the Train." So we did like 3 songs during that session. And Chicken was the first song we cut and started working on the lyric, and we got it done and we recorded it. And then that's how it had such references as, the changes that we were making, from our own perspective. John Rich convinced Big Kenny to let me be a part of their show. Then John and Kenny together went to Paul Worley at Warner Brothers at the time and convinced him that I needed to be a part of this.
Oh, wow.
And then from here, the 3 of them convinced Tom Wally out at Warner LA at that time. So I mean, it starts. It all started with my friendship with John.
Yeah.
And we've been friends nearly 30 years. This year is 30 years.
Wow.
So it's kind of and we've stayed friends the entire time. And it's always a humbling kind of thing to know that your friends, take it upon themselves to work on your behalf.
Yeah.
To help you achieve your goals. It's really cool.
So when was the moment you knew the song had hit it big? Did you just watch it rise up on the Billboard charts, or did you watch it in the country charts or anything, or did you even know?
Well, so the album Locomotive came out on May 17, 2005. That was on a Tuesday back when they used to release the music back then. It was on Tuesday before they switched to Fridays. It came out on a Tuesday. Thursday, May 19th, 2005, we were performing Chicken with the Train on The Tonight Show with Leno.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, Jules Wortman at the time was, senior VP over PR. And Jules managed to call some folks that she knew and got us on to play on Leno. And at that point, I'm like, okay, here it is. And they're like, we're sitting there, everybody's getting dressed, we're all doing this. And, before going out, they come in and say, all right, it's time to go. Everybody get to your places. And, first thing I did before I left my dressing room, I knelt down and I gave thanks to God for allowing me to get to this point. Because I knew I probably had the ability to do it, but I wasn't able to figure out how I was going to get to that point. But the fact that I was able to get there. And, I knelt down and I prayed to God, thank you so much for getting me this opportunity. And, I'm sitting there, and after I was done, got up and started walking out, getting ready to go and do the bit. And of course, tour manager pats you on the back. Don't mess up. Because think about it, it's like, wait a minute. There are millions of people, 20 million people watching the show.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of people. He was top of the game, yeah. Well, it has to be so realistic, though. I mean, I know the show is shot in the afternoon. I had the privilege at one time talking to Jay about a business deal years ago. But I know it's shot in the afternoon, and then they edit for late night. And then I assume you have to go in they have to do the camera stuff. So you go in and do the blocking so they know what you're going to be doing on the song. But when you're walking out there, and I also know that when you got through doing the song, it probably went by so fast that you probably went, I mean, and you're like, that's it?
That's it.
But you have to be standing there and watching this crowd, and I think there's like 300 or 400 people, whatever it is there. And it's got to be one of those moments you're like, I'm in a dream. I cannot believe I'm standing here on Jay Leno's song with these guys performing in front of these people for an international audience.
Yeah.
And that one deal, as you know, that's why people always coveted getting on that show. It didn't matter the late night show. It's a little different now, but still back then it was like, how many comics want to go on that show? I mean, just that 7 minutes you get, whether you get 7 minutes or in your situation, 4 minutes or whatever.
3 minutes and 17 seconds. That's how long the song is.
And that's all you need. It's kind of like AGT, 2 minutes can change your life. All right, so you've gone now. You've done that. Let's fast forward to where you are now, because you did some stuff. You still do what you like doing.
Yeah.
Now you've got your own music. Tell me a little bit about, I know you're still doing some gigs and stuff like that. What do you want? I mean, you're doing your own music. Is that kind of what you want to continue to do, write and tour? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy music. I mean, it's one of those things like you talked about, it gets in your head, and you got a way to get it out of your head and into a recorded form so that people can consume it or not consume it, because, art is subjective.
Yes, it is.
Stuff that one person really, really likes, other people may not care for it as much. But as an artist and as a writer, and, you still got to get it out of your head, or else it'll, bother you, So
well, it never goes away. It never goes away.
And it won't go away. There are songs that I had in my head for a while that, I kept thinking about them until I finally got them recorded. And there would be times where it was a couple of years where I still think about the song or the melody, and I'd be driving around and it's still stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Eventually I get it into a recorded form and I'm able to move on, and I don't have to harp on it, because now it's in a recorded form. It's available for public consumption, and I can move. And, I guess that's kind of what it is. But I enjoy music. I enjoy writing it. I enjoy performing it. I enjoy, the process. And, you have to be open and available to basically receive these ideas when they pop in your head. Because, if you don't and you start blocking it out, eventually, that
it goes away.
It'll go away. You have to be receptive to it.
And now you've got, you said you got one song that just came out. Didn't you tell me that? And you got another single or something coming out?
So the song that's out now is a song called Gonna Be All Right. And it came out in February.
Okay, I've listened to that, yeah.
It's a fun little ditty, I guess, and I had to get it out of my head. It sat around for a couple of years. And then, so the next song that's coming out is a song called Down the Line. And Down the Line comes out this Friday on March 17th on St. Patrick's Day. So,
St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. So
what's the song about?
It's a song about understanding is that even though even though two people care about each other, that perhaps, you're not the best suited for each other.
Mm.
You're wishing for their happiness, even though their happiness is not necessarily meant to be with you.
Mm.
So, basically I'm moving on down the line. And so yeah, it's kind of how you write the song and you move on with it, and you let it do its deal.
Tell me a little bit about, real quick before we wrap up, about what do you do now? I mean, do you private? Obviously, you do some private stuff, but how do you do your gigs, or what are you doing now? I mean, you're going to be promoting the songs, or tell me what you want to do.
I'm available for gigs, whether they're private gigs, public gigs. It just depends on what, I get the phone call for, and, what gets booked. I make myself available. I mean, I'm available to DJ. I've done DJ gigs and all stuff like that, hosting events. Last year I was the MC and host for WeFest in Minnesota, in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And it's the largest country music festival in North America. I'm scheduled to come back this year again to do it again. So I'm excited about it. I do a number of different things. My hosting skills come from being on Nashville Star for 2 seasons, season 4 and season 5, and did that, on USA Network. And, so get practice doing that and, emceeing festivals. I do whatever they ask for.
Well, thank you very much. Have a great week, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take care, Rick.
All right. You have a good day. See ya.
Pride is a hard meal to swallow, but here I sit, 3 by 10. Lots of confusion and tattered feelings mix up, and they start to spin. And a sad song written with all the sad lines. Then I realized I was just wasting time. I'm moving on down the line. Pick my heart up, dust it off, and I'll be fine. I wish you well and happiness, all the sparkles and shine. But I'm moving on down the line. The commitment ain't the same, and at the end of the day, it's okay. You can have feelings even though you both know you don't fit. It'll be what it'll be, and that's it. I'm moving on down the line. Pick my heart up, dust it off, and I'll be fine. Well, and happiness, all the sparkles and shine. But I'm moving on down the line. All the sparkles and shine, but I'm moving on down the line. I'm moving on down the line. Pick my heart up, dust it off, and I'll be fine. I wish you well, happiness, all the sparkles and shine, but I'm moving on down the line.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thank you very, very much for listening today. A very special thank you to Cowboy Troy for taking time out of his busy schedule to talk with me. For more information about Cowboy Troy, you can go visit him at his website at cowboytroy.com. Thanks, Cowboy Troy. And for more information about the Trout Show, if you want to see this on YouTube or listen to it on a podcast, go to our website at thetroutshow.com. So until next time, folks, you know what I'm saying. It's only rock and roll. But gosh darn it, we love it. See ya.